Right now, on To The Point. The park fire burning in Butte and Tehama counties, sparked by a burning car tripling in size.
This fire has absolutely just exploded.
Thousands evacuated, more than 130 homes destroyed. Tonight, we investigate. When did this area last burn and who is responsible for managing it? Plus, new details tonight as the state increases options for its wildfire insurance of last resort.
The upside is there's more coverage. The downside is we're putting more weight on the California Fair Plan.
Why critics are calling it a bailout.
Good evening. This is To The Point. I'm Becca Habiger. Alex Bell has the night off. We start with breaking news in the park fire continuing to explode in size. A state of emergency has just been declared, and in addition to evacuations in Butte and Tehama counties, parts of Shasta and Plumas counties are now being told to prepare to leave. Now, this is a look at those evacuation maps tonight. Orders are now stretching into southern Shasta County, and warnings are stretching into western Plumas County all the way to Lake Almanor, which suffered from the 2021 Dixie Fire. Parts of Paradise, the site of the 2018 Camp Fire, are also facing warnings tonight. Emergency officials are encouraging people to sign up for those emergency alerts if they have not already done so. So here's what we know right now. The park fire has now burned more than 178,000 acres. 4,200 structures are threatened and at least 134 structures are destroyed. This fire sparked Wednesday afternoon just north of Chico's Bidwell Park. A Chico man is now in custody, accused of pushing a burning car into a gully, which started the park fire. He will be in court on Monday. And we have team coverage tonight. ABC 10 meteorologist Carly Gomez is tracking the latest fire conditions, but we start with ABC 10's Devin Truby, live along Highway 32 in Butte County with more on the firefight. Devin?
Becca, this fire is burning at a rate of 5,000 acres an hour, which is what is giving us this ginormous pyrocumulus cloud. Go ahead and take a look. Just within the last 15 minutes, if you see on the right of your screen, what we're zooming into right now is a new plume that has just emerged. So more fuel has caught fire. You're taking a look along Highway 32, which CAL FIRE says it is crucial that they use the highway as a containment line and make this stop here and start to get their hands wrapped around the park fire.
I haven't looked out onto the horizon and seen a fire like this really since 2021, I guess, during the Dixie Fire.
Rick Carhart with CAL FIRE has been covering Butte County for years. He says the park fire is doing things that are unexpected, like doubling back to the neighborhood of Cohasset Thursday night. Here you see CAL FIRE setting up containment lines around this home Thursday. Friday morning, only a chimney remains. The drastic difference between a lush Limpach Road and now a charred one.
If a spark hits the ground, it's almost inevitable that it's going to start a fire.
CAL FIRE saying Cohasset is an example of why listening to evacuations and staying out is so important. Homes were evacuated Wednesday. CAL FIRE using Highway 32 as a stopgap for the park fire. They've been struggling with containment because they haven't been able to do this, which is get active inside the firefight and set up those perimeters, because the fire has been spreading and its flanks have been heading towards homes and neighborhoods. So they've been prioritizing trying to save those residences. The park fire, a statewide effort with crews as far as Riverside coming in, 1,600 personnel, a dynamic aerial attack with 6 helicopters. But Carhart says they have another job equally as important, being sensitive to a community still trying to heal 5.5 years later from the campfire. A gut-wrenching moment for those same people evacuating again.
The people in Paradise, the people in Magalia, the people in Concow, those folks have been through it so many times. And so, yeah, it's a little bit jarring.
These massive plumes of smoke making the aerial attack very difficult. CAL FIRE saying they're having trouble getting in front of this fire, flying through the smoke to drop retardant and water, which is why they are still chasing the park fire at this point in time. Becca, I want to take a moment to talk about how dynamic this fire is. We were speaking with CAL FIRE, and over in Cohasset neighborhood, they had a prescribed burn there a little bit less than a year ago, 600 acres. Well, this fire had no problem fueling itself with enough wind and energy to burn burned through 600 acres of controlled burn, very little fuel available for it, and making it to the Cohasset Road and the neighborhood. That's just how dynamic, uncontrollable, and unexpected the Park Fire has been. Reporting live in Butte County, Devin Truby, ABC 10.
Yeah, Devin, thank you so much. And of course, our hearts go out to the folks who went through the campfire 5.5 years ago, as you mentioned, just how jarring this must be. Now take a look at just how fast this fire is growing. This is time-lapse video of satellite images. It can be seen from space. The area this fire has burned is nearly 3 times the size of the city of Sacramento. Now, ABC 10 meteorologist Carly Gomez is tracking more dangerous fire conditions tonight.
Yeah, we have about 6 hours of some very windy, very gusty conditions still expected to push through that Park Fire area before we finally see things slow down just a little bit. You can see the winds coming in from the south, moving that fire toward the north and then eventually toward the northwest as we move into the early morning hours. And we're going to see all that smoke as well shifting from the north as we get to about midnight, and then eventually into the morning becoming a little bit more widespread, shifting to the northeast through the daytime hours. So any plans to go hiking or traveling up to Shasta, well, you're going to be expecting quite a bit of smoke in that area. Now let's talk about these winds, the future cast of these winds here. As we get into about midnight, you see the direction of the wind from the south moving to the north and then northeast, closer toward I-5. This isn't fire. This is just kind of the zone and color of about 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts. Now that could potentially fuel some of the flames there to continue growing, but as we see by 4 a.m., everything starts to settle down much more. Some good news as we get into those early morning hours, and detrimental for firefighters as they try to get a handle on those flames. Some of this humidity has been as much as about 10 to 20% for that area, and we're going to continue to see dry conditions still through the weekend, but much cooler temperatures as well. Low 60s to upper 50s overnight. We'll talk more about this cooling trend coming up.
Carly, thank you. As the fight to put out the Park Fire continues, we're learning more about who manages the vegetation in this part of the state. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen joins us in studio, hearing from the U.S. Forest Service and CAL FIRE officials. Jeannie?
Becca, tonight, as both agencies work to try to stop the Park Fire, they say they have made some efforts to treat the land in the area before, but due to terrain and private land ownership, there was no stopping this fire when it sparked Wednesday afternoon.
As the Park Fire triples in size since a burning car sparked it on Wednesday, CAL FIRE says the thick vegetation near Chico has fueled its quick growth.
Thick, heavily heavily forested, wooded, thick vegetation, and with a lot of live and dead fuel moisture components associated with it.
While CAL FIRE is taking the lead fighting this fire, the United States Forest Services is helping manage efforts on federal land.
This is coming into the Lassen National Forest. It is coming into the Ishii Wilderness. Now, the Ishii Wilderness is about a 41,000 acre piece of land.
CAL FIRE says one of the main reasons this fire has grown so quickly is because of the lack of fire history in the area.
10 plus years there, 30 plus years in another area, and then some of the areas, zero fire history.
Historic fire maps show the last big fire in this exact area was the Campbell Fire in 1990. Other areas that recently burned near the Park Fire is the Dixie Fire in 2021 and the Camp Fire in 2018, which both burned well over 150,000 acres each. In 2022, the governor's office announced a plan to expand the use of prescribed fires. Their goal starting in 2025 is to burn 400,000 acres a year with the help of state, federal, tribal, and local agencies. The U.S. Forest Services says this year they treated 405 acres in the Ishii Wilderness.
We have increased scope and pace of fuels treatments immensely. We actually hit a record for prescribed fire acres treated last year. We're well on track to do that again this year.
CAL FIRE also burned 600 acres last year where the Park Fire is now burning. But fire officials say the issue moving forward is access to certain areas.
There's nothing that we can do since it's private land. We can just encourage those landowners to go in there and then masticate and kind of, open things up.
Now, we did reach out to the governor's office for comment on forest management in this area moving forward, but did not hear back. Becca.
Jeannie, thank you. To stay up to date with Park Fire and other wildfire developments, you can download the free ABC 10 app and be sure to turn on notifications for updates. Now, next on To the Point, the FAIR plan. As the state increases options for its wildfire insurance of last resort, how it could impact other homeowners. And we are going on the back roads for an in-depth look at the big boy that just rolled through our area for the first time. We continue to follow the Park Fire. A state of emergency has now been declared in several counties as evacuation orders and warnings expand. Now take a look. Orders are now stretching into southern Shasta County, and in just the past few minutes, more warnings have just been issued. New warnings are also in effect in western Plumas County all the way to Lake Elminor. Meteorologist Carly Gomez joins us. Carly, very dangerous fire weather still we're seeing.
Still very dangerous. Red flag warning through 11 p.m. That means strong winds will continue with the dry conditions, but the terrain isn't making it easy because it's an upslope battle there. That's where the fire continues to burn fast, and we're looking at the wind directions coming in from the south, continuing to shift those flames north. Now, the tough terrain there, of course, as mentioned, is making it difficult not even just to battle the flames, but it does carry its own weather pattern because of the terrain helping to fuel the fire, making it move faster. Now, again, this is going to be in effect until tonight. That's 11 p.m. The big weather impact, of course, that red flag warning in place there for fire danger, but fire danger is also possible in the valley because of how dry it is, and the gusty winds still continuing in our valley spots tonight, up to 25 to even 35 mile per hour wind gusts, especially through those delta areas. Now, cool weekend is ahead, and we're talking 80s. Yes, so much cooler. We'll be seeing anywhere from the mid to even low 80s tomorrow to mid to upper 80s by Sunday, and then a gradual warming trend arrives for us next week. And I say gradual because we'll slowly get to those mid 90s middle of the work week with upper 90s toward the following weekend. As we look toward our Saturday lunchtime, finally, we see things slowing down further north where that fire is, as well as even inland, about 15 mile per hour wind gusts possible, and a small little pickup into our evening hours, but nothing compared to what we're dealing with today. Taking a look at that smoke, it is going to shift its way to the north and then to the northeast and becoming more widespread Saturday for Northern California. If you have plans to head up toward Shasta, you're taking I-5, just be aware of how much smoke is out there. Make sure you're taking it nice and slow and just aware of the situation. As we look at the cooling trend coming in, we're seeing those really millibar charts here dipping down into California and into Sacramento. Much cooler temperatures expected. With our 10-day forecast, we will see these mid to upper 80s, and tomorrow low 80s in Sacramento, 87 Sunday. And then take a look at this, 90s turn maybe about 100 degrees the following weekend.
Now to new developments in our homeowners insurance crisis. Today, the state's insurance commissioner announced changes to the California FAIR Plan, the so-called insurer of last resort. And some critics are labeling part of it a bailout.
The FAIR Plan will be expanding the amount of coverage it can offer to large commercial policyholders, including HOAs. Currently capped at $20 million, the agreement with the FAIR Plan, announced Friday, will allow Division I commercial property insurance policies to offer up to $100 million of coverage. As insurance expert Carl Sussman puts it,
The upside is there's more coverage, right, available for people like homeowners associations. The downside is we're putting more weight on the California FAIR Plan, which already is so overburdened with exposure.
the FAIR Plan is where homeowners and commercial properties turn when they can't find fire insurance on the regular market. State law established it in the late 60s, but it is not funded with taxpayer money. It is essentially a fire insurance pool paid into by all insurance companies admitted to do business in the state of California. But here's where the critics of Friday's announcement come in. In the event of a major wildfire that requires the FAIR Plan to ask each contributing insurance company to shell out at least $1 billion in claims, if not more, within a calendar year, the Department of Insurance will now allow insurance companies to charge their policyholders, regardless of whether you're on the FAIR Plan, a supplemental fee in order to help recoup some or all of the company's costs. Advocacy group Consumer Watchdog takes issue with that.
We think it's outrageous to call a bailout of the insurance industry on the back of home insurance policyholders consumer protection. If the FAIR Plan finds itself in financial trouble, that's because the home insurance industry dumped policyholders on the FAIR Plan. And the home insurance industry should be responsible if the FAIR Plan needs help paying its bills.
Executive Director Carmen Balber questions its legality.
It's very clear that the statute authorizes the FAIR Plan to assess insurance companies. Nowhere in the law does it say insurance companies can pass that cost on to consumers.
We have to look at the dominoes before it gets to consumers. There has to be a wildfire large enough that the FAIR Plan can't afford it, and then an assessment that's done with the admitted insurance carriers, and that's not enough. And then an assessment has to be done on policyholders of the FAIR Plan, and that's not enough. So we're way down the line before it would trickle down to consumers.
As for those new, higher commercial coverage limits, the Fair Plan has up to 8 months to make those available for customers. So Friday's news just gets the ball rolling.
And today's announcement is just one part of the insurance commissioner's sustainable insurance strategy. That's a major regulatory overhaul announced back in September, as we've reported on, with a goal of going into effect by the end of this year. Well, you never know what you'll see on the back roads. This week, John Bartel takes us on a historic train ride through the Feather River Canyon on the world's largest steam locomotive, the Big Boy.
Just 25 miles from the Nevada border in the railroad town of Portola, California, eager photographers gather at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum to snap a picture of a locomotive never before seen in this area. This is the Big Boy 4014, and it's the largest steam locomotive in the world.
To be able to see the largest steam train in the world, especially the one that still works, it's out of this world.
The Big Boy is the holy grail of locomotives in the train spotting community, and for the first time, it's entered into California on a whistle-stop tour from Portola to Roseville.
So Big Boy's operated from Ogden, Utah, effectively to North Platte, Nebraska. Very small network. So we're making history here when we're traveling with the Big Boy, because Big Boy's never traveled out in this part of the country.
Ed Dickinson is with Union Pacific's Heritage Operations, and he's the one operating this beast.
Well, we're talking 545,000 pounds just on the drivers. The locomotive is 610 tons, which weighs as much as 3 of those.
A total of just 25 Big Boys were built between 1941 and 1944. All of them, though, were retired just a few years later in 1959 when Union Pacific moved to the more efficient diesel locomotives. Now, most Big Boys were either scrapped or donated to museums, but in 2019, Ed and his team brought the 4014 back to life.
2.5 years it took us to completely disassemble this locomotive and build it back up again.
As the Big Boy leaves Portola, I was offered a ride through a portion of the Feather River Canyon, one of California's most scenic and historic railroad routes. These are just one-of-a-kind views that you get in here. Now, you may remember my episode on the 7 wonders of the Feather River Canyon. Yeehaw! And you'll recognize this, the Callao Bridge. This 105-foot-long steel trestle stands more than 170 feet over Willow Creek. From inside the Big Boy, it feels like you're flying. And from ground level, spectators get one heck of a view. So as these guys roll through town, they have a certain celebrity status with all the rail fans. 19 miles northwest of the Callao Bridge is one of the Feather River Canyon's most unique engineering innovations, the Williams Loop. In order to get over the steep hill and keep the track at a 1% grade, builders looped a mile of track over itself, much like a spiral staircase. This is also where I got off the Big Boy to join the rail fans on the ground, because I wanted to see the next stop. The Ketty Y is the only railroad Y in the world with 2 tracks merging over a canyon and then entering a tunnel. The trestle is located high above Spanish Creek, and below the Ketty Resort is where you get one of the best views of the bridge. What do you guys think?
Big, so steaming, hot, great. Can't complain.
It takes a really dedicated person to be a train enthusiast to capture that perfect picture. As the 135-foot-long locomotive heads out of the Feather River Canyon, more and more train spotters start jumping on Highway 70 to see the Big Boy cross the Tobin Bridges, a railroad and vehicle bridge that crosses over each other. Locals say it's good luck to have a train pass over your car. Was it worth the wait?
Oh, heck yes. I'm a fireman on the Virginia Truckee Railroad, and this thing is more impressive than anything I've ever worked on. Sorry, engines.
When the train reached Oroville, temperatures outside were 115 degrees, but that didn't stop a massive crowd from forming. Inside the locomotive, though, next to the boiler, the crews can experience even hotter temperatures.
Yesterday it was 135 degrees in this cab.
Choo-choo!
Waiting at the Big Boy's final destination in Roseville were thousands of onlookers. The crowd spilled across Vernon Square.
Who would have thought this many people come for a train? It's amazing.
We spend a lot of time at the Railroad Museum.
We're train fanatics.
Well, it's unclear if or when the Big Boy will return to California, but if you want to see the locomotives on the Feather River Canyon now, there's nothing stopping you from meeting up with a fellow rail fan and seeing the historic railroad yourself. From the Big Boy, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
To watch all of John's stories, just text Backroads to 916-321-3310. We're back after this. We've got the Amador County Fair this weekend, the final weekend of the State Fair. So enjoy it. Have a good night. We'll see you back here on Monday. What is Jeopardy is next.
Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.